Picture this. You're at a neighborhood barbecue, chatting with a neighbor who just retired. You know he's a millionaire. He's got the big house, the fancy car, the second home down south. And then he says something that makes you do a double take. Yeah, we're paying almost nothing for our health insurance. Wait a second. How is that possible? How can someone with millions of dollars qualify for government subsidies that are supposed to help lower income Americans? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. It's all about how income is defined for healthcare subsidies. Assets don't count, and sometimes the wealthy can make their income look low enough on paper to qualify, even though they're living a very comfortable lifestyle. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't about cheating the system. It's about understanding the rules of the system. Because whether you're a millionaire or just someone approaching retirement, the way your income is structured can have a huge impact on what you pay for healthcare. So in today's video, I'm going to share several stories of millionaires who legally qualified for subsidies, break down exactly how the system works, and show you the lessons you can apply to your own retirement planning. By the end, you'll see that these aren't just millionaire tricks. They're lessons in how the tax code, Medicare premiums, and retirement income strategies all fit together. And you'll learn how to avoid overpaying for healthcare without breaking the rules. First, how healthcare subsidies work. Before we dive into the stories, let's lay the groundwork. The Affordable Care Act created subsidies to help people afford health insurance before they're eligible for Medicare. These subsidies are based on something called your Modified Adjustable Gross Income, or MAGI. Notice, I didn't say wealth. I didn't say net worth. I said income. That's a crucial difference. You could have $3 million sitting in investment accounts, but if you don't sell those investments this year, none of that shows up as income on your tax return. You could own a vacation home, 2 luxury cars, and a boat, but as long as you're not generating taxable income, those things don't affect your eligibility for subsidies. The subsidy system doesn't care about what you own. It cares about what you report as income. And here's the kicker. There are certain sources of money you can live on in retirement that don't count as income for subsidy purposes. That's where millionaires can end up qualifying for subsidies, even though they clearly don't need any financial assistance. So let me tell you the first story, the early retirees with Roth IRAs. So let's meet our first couple, Dave and Linda. Dave and Linda retired early at age 60. Over their careers, they did two really smart things. One, they maxed out their Roth IRAs, and two, they built up a taxable brokerage account invested in stocks. By the time they retired, they had nearly $2 million in combined assets. Here's the interesting part. When they turned 60, they decided not to touch their traditional IRAs yet. Instead, they lived off a combination of their Roth IRA withdrawals, which are tax-free and don't count as income, and selling stock in their brokerage account, but carefully managing which shares they sold so that the taxable gain was minimal. On paper, their modified adjustable gross income, or MAGI, was only $28,000. That's well within the range for the Affordable Care Act subsidies. So even though they had a net worth of nearly $2 million, their health insurance premiums were heavily subsidized. They paid a few $100s a month to cover for coverage that otherwise would have cost them $1,500 or more per month. Now, were they doing anything illegal? Not at all. They were simply living off savings and tax-free withdrawals. The lesson here is this. It's not about how much money you have, it's about how you take it out. Dave and Linda designed their retirement withdrawals in a way that minimized reportable income, and that qualified them for subsidies. Now let me tell you about another story, a business owner who sold and then waited. So let's look at Mark. Mark sold his business at age 58 for several $1 million. You'd think someone who had just sold for a 7-figure payday wouldn't qualify for subsidies, right? But here's what happened. The year he sold, yes, he had a huge taxable gain, but in the years after, he did something very deliberate. He parked the bulk of the proceeds in tax-efficient investments. He bought municipal bonds, which pay interest that doesn't count toward your modified adjustable gross income for Affordable Care Act subsidies. He also set aside a big chunk in Roth IRAs through a backdoor conversion strategy he had been doing for years. From age 59 to 64, before Medicare kicked in, Mark's taxable income was shockingly low. He lived off tax-free muni bond interest, Roth withdrawals, and cash reserves. On paper, his modified adjusted gross income was under $40,000 a year. So while his neighbors thought, wow, Mark must be paying a fortune for health insurance, he was actually getting thousands of dollars in subsidies. Again, completely legal. The tax code simply doesn't treat assets and certain types of income the same way. The lesson: if you're planning to sell a business or a personal property or property before retirement, think about not just the sale year, but the years after. There may be a window where your income looks low enough to qualify for benefits, even if you're sitting on a pile of cash. Now let's talk about Karen. Karen owned 12 rental properties. By any measure, she was a millionaire. Her real estate was worth more than $4 million. But when it came to income, she was very strategic. She kept her properties in an LLC and used depreciation deductions to reduce her taxable income. Even though the rentals brought in over $200,000 in rent, her taxable income after expenses and depreciation was under $35,000. That's the number that matters for subsidies. So Karen, with her millions in property, qualified for healthcare subsidies for nearly a decade before going on Medicare. Here's a lesson: depreciation and other tax strategies can dramatically lower reported income. For retirees with real estate, this is a big deal. It shows, again, that wealthy and income don't always line up the way we think it does. All right, so let's compare this to IRMAA. Now, you might be wondering, how does this compare to Medicare premiums or IRMAA, which we talked about in another video? Here's the interesting part. IRMAA and Affordable Care Act subsidies both look at your modified adjustable gross income, but the thresholds and direction of the impact are reversed. With subsidies, the lower your income, the bigger your subsidy. With IRMAA, the higher your income, the higher your Medicare premiums are. So in your early 60s before Medicare, you might actually want to keep your income low to qualify for subsidies. But after 65, the planning flips. Now the question is, how do you prevent your income from going too high and triggering IRMAA? Understanding both sides of the question is key. It's not just about taxes, it's about healthcare costs, which can be one of the biggest expenses in retirement. So let's look at the bigger picture. Here's the truth. Most people aren't millionaires, but the millionaire stories teach us something powerful. It's not just about what you have, it's how it shows up on your tax returns. You may not have $4 million in real estate or a business sale under your belt, but the same principles apply. Roth IRA withdrawals don't count as income. Capital gains only count when you sell. Depreciation and deductions matter, and the timing of withdrawals can make the difference between paying full price or getting significant help with health insurance. So if millionaires can qualify for subsidies by managing their income, so can everyday retirees. This isn't about gaming the system, it's about understanding it. And when you understand the system, you can make smarter choices about when and how to draw income for retirement. So the next time you hear about a millionaire getting healthcare subsidies, don't assume it's fraud. More often than not, it's just the way the system is built. Assets don't qualify or don't count, only income does. And if you're smart about how you take your income in retirement, you might find yourself qualifying for help you didn't even think about or even think was possible. Now, should millionaires get subsidies? That's a policy debate. But for you, the retiree or soon-to-be retiree, the lesson's clear. Your retirement income strategy doesn't just affect your taxes, it affects your healthcare costs too. So plan wisely, know the rules, and remember, it's not just about how much money you have, but how you take it out. Thanks for joining me today. If you found this helpful, hit the like button or subscribe for more retirement strategies, and share this video with someone who's planning for healthcare in retirement or even just retirement planning. And if you'd like personalized help creating a plan that balances income, taxes, and healthcare costs, reach out to us. I'd be glad to help. There's a link below to set some time up. Thanks again. See you next time.